Hello. When I was growing up, I had a communication barrier. When I went to school when I was 4, I was deaf. And hearing aids in those days weren't like they are today. It was a big box on my chest with little earphones. It was so heavy and I was only a child. I went to a mainstream school, which meant that there was a mixture of hearing and deaf students. However, there were only 12 deaf students in the whole school and the rest were all hearing. Just as any hearing child would, we all went to different classes. However, when we used to go, we'd be watching the teacher and didn't understand a thing. So after lessons, we'd go to the PHU, or partially hearing unit, and ask the teacher to clarify some stuff. In the classroom, I'd sit by myself. All the other hearing children were sitting around talking. The teacher was chatting. I didn't understand a word she was saying. There wasn't an awful lot I could do, just sitting around twiddling my thumbs. I was watching all the other kids have a laugh and joke, and I felt so lonely and excluded. The teacher would explain what she was talking about, and obviously I missed it. But when she wrote it on the board, I just assumed that's what she was saying, and wrote that down. It was the only way I could follow it. So I'd make notes, and then after it had finished, I'd go to the PHU and ask the teacher there to explain what had been said. She'd translate it back to my level. I really hated school. Every day was the same. Back in those days, we didn't have interpreters or note takers, which meant that communication was really hard. I don't really know how I coped. I just got on with it. After primary school, I went to secondary school. Things got a bit better there because I had a note taker in the room. A note taker is when the teacher speaks and they will write down everything that's being said so I can read it. The only problem was there were a couple of words that I still didn't understand. I'd ask the note taker to clarify, who would tell me to wait and be patient. So I'd make a note of these and then afterwards go to the PHU and have them explained to me. There were some benefits to having a note taker. For example, when I was reading what she'd written, I was learning English at the same time. So now I could understand sign language and English. When school finished, I went to college. I was trying to find the right course, and eventually I found the right one. It's fashion design. I found it really interesting, but was a bit nervous about how I'd communicate, as there was no PHU in college. When I arrived, I found out I had an interpreter. I'd never had one before, so I asked what it was. The college explained to me that when the teacher is talking, I can watch the interpreter who's speaking my own language. I couldn't believe it. I'd never heard anything like this before, and my confidence suddenly shot up, unlike before when I was at school and I felt really left out. I suddenly started to feel more involved, not just with the teacher, but with the students as well. I could ask what sort of conversation they were having and start to make friends. For the first time, I started to feel really included and happy with my life. Having had such a bad experience at school, I suddenly started to feel much happier. After college, I went into work. Again, I had the communication problem. I became a wedding dress designer, which involved sewing and making the wedding dresses. I couldn't hear any of my colleagues talking. So at my tea and coffee break, I'd watch them and try really hard to lip read. I'd ask them to slow down or write down what they were saying so I could understand. It was hardly convenient. Life has really changed for me though. Before, there was no way of communicating. I couldn't use the phone. I ended up having to send letters, and that took ages to wait for a response. But that was the only way we could do it. Now we've got these new mobiles. It allows me to send a text or an email straight away and get instant response. It's so quick, and people can get back to me straight away. Now, not only do we have phones, but we've also got computers. We can email, we can Skype. It's fantastic for allowing communication. With webcams, it even means that I can sign to my friends. It's amazing how things have changed. And even though there are still people out there with communication barriers, I like to think that soon they'll be eradicated.